This is where we hunt. This is where we fish. This is how we live. Welcome to We Fish Too, where we hunt, fish, and live outdoors. What's up, everybody? It's Doc. I want to welcome you all to the first episode of We Hunt 2, We Fish 2 Podcast. First, I want to say thank you and give a huge appreciation to every single one of you tuning in today. Whether you found this channel through social media, YouTube, word of mouth, I just want to say thank you for being here. This podcast is for everybody. It's for, people like you and me. This is where you can come and enjoy conversations about hunting and fishing and living the great outdoors. This podcast is for everybody, because in it, we're going to talk about hunting, fishing, bow hunting, deer hunting. We'll talk about some wildlife, game. You will talk about some public land hunting or just being outdoors, period. Around here, we believe the outdoor is more than just recreation. It's a lifestyle. And on this podcast, we're going to talk about everything that I just mentioned in detail. But the great thing about this podcast, I'm inviting you to talk to me and my guests about your perspective, your experiences, and even share some of your videos that we can talk about and learn some things from together. But before we get into all of that, I want to start with why this podcast came to be or how this podcast came to be. Really, this podcast is birthed out of my upbringing. I'm just a small town guy from a small town, and my mother had some very strong values. One of her values was you're not going to sit around being in the house. You're going to get outside. You're going to go outdoors. And like many young guys that I grew up with in the South, in Utah, Alabama, we found ourselves outside on Saturday mornings. We didn't have the luxury of just being in the house, on the phone, on the game. Not that there's anything wrong with it because that's the day and time that we live in. But at the time, being outside was our outlets. And my mother, she really fed into that idea by not letting me just stay in the house. Because, of course, we had our Saturday morning cartoons, followed by some Kung Fu flicks. And then the World Wrestling Federation came on, even at Continental Wrestling, where I first saw the Four Horsemen and Steve and Arn Anderson and Ric Flair and that crew. But at the time when my mom, didn't allow us to enjoy those things, I thought it was punishment. But not realizing the wisdom and the value of the words or the meaning behind why she wanted us to go outside. It didn't really come to me till I got older and realized how important being outside was. Because being outside taught me a few things, and just sitting around in front of a TV screen or a phone being held in my hand. The outdoor teaches things like patience, awareness, discipline. It teaches problem solving and even respect for the wildlife. There's something different about here in the woods, waking up early in the morning. I mean, if you, like myself, like to be in a tree at about 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:15, you know exactly what I mean by that. There's something different by sitting quiet in a tree as the sun rises and seeing that sun crest over the trees and lighting up the forest floor as you chasing that buck of a lifetime. There's something different about being on the water early in the morning. You all know how that is, that crisp wind, that crisp morning. The water, there's very few, the water is placid. It looks like a mirror. And all you can think about is pulling out that bass or pulling out that crappie that you've been hunting for all year. The outdoors, to me, and I'm sure you all can agree with this, it slows you down. It helps me. At one point, it helped me breathe again. And honestly, I think more people need that today, more so than anything. They just need to take time and just breathe because it's tough, man. It's tough. So one of the biggest reasons I wanted to start this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, is because we're seeing fewer people getting involved in the outdoors. And that is something that is of a concern, particularly when you're talking about hunting and fishing. The WMA and Outdoor Organization have talked about the decline in participation over the years. Let me give you some numbers just for perspective. According to Wildlife for All, this is an article that's dedicated to the outdoor space. The North Carolina State participated in the writing of this article. And since 1960, the numbers have actually increased from 1960 to 1982, topping them numbers at about 16.7 million. But after 82, those numbers started to decline to about, when they did the numbers in 2010, that number dipped down to about 15.9. But the biggest thing that goes against that is the rising number of residents that counteracts that number as well. We're talking about population for an instance. When there were 14 million hunters representing roughly 7.7% of the U.S. population, you had 180 people that was accounted for. In 2020, hunters represented only 4.8% of the U.S. population. And compare that to 1982, 7.2. So you can see over a 40-year period or so, give or take, you go from 7.2 down to 4.9. Those are the type numbers we're talking about, and those numbers are steadily declining. So we are really, really concerned, particularly if you're of the hunting community. Those numbers are concerning because hunters play and conservationists play a huge role in wildlife. There's a balance to it. And if there is an imbalance, then our way of life will become pretty much, uninhabitable. But because of our participation as hunters in the wildlife, we help to keep those numbers and things in balance. Switching over to fishing, over the same period from 1960 to 1982, there were roughly 19 million anglers representing about 10.6% of the population. But in 2021, there was a peak, there was a spike in the hunting community, and it represented about 9.7%. But after 2022, that fell to 9.3%. So that was a 0.4% decline. Not as big as the hunting community with the Bass Pro Major Fishing Leagues, Major League Fishing, and the marketing and the visibility of that sport really, really helped to maintain the participation in as far as anglers and fishermen. But those are just some of the numbers. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but just want to give you guys an understanding what we mean by there's a concern and there's a decline. But again, we're talking about fewer hunters, fewer fishermen, and fewer people in the outdoors, because hunting and fishing are about more than about just harvesting deer and catching fish. There's a lot more surrounding these activities, because what people have to understand, you're being connected with nature. You're being connected to what your natural instincts as a human being allows you to do, connected to nature. And then there's that understanding of the whole conservation a role. We have a role, and we are responsible for maintaining the wildlife and maintaining its balance. And, there are some family traditions. Myself, I'm trying to maintain or keep some, or even introduce new traditions in my family. I'm sure some of you out there have a family tradition that spans decades, even generations, where things have been passed down over the years. That's wonderful, and we want to maintain that. We want to keep those type things among the community of hunters and fishermen. And at the end of the day, it's life lessons. It's life lessons that have been taught. It's life lessons that have been passed down over the decades and from generation to generation. So me coming from a background of education and a background of teaching, I think those lessons are valuable to our younger community members in terms of developing them into responsible people. These lessons can allow them to be very successful, even in the workplace, even allow them to use these lessons to create spaces of respect, create spaces of tolerance, create spaces of being able to see the benefit of community. So the outdoors has a real humility check that comes real quickly, because anyone who's hunted public land knows exactly what I mean, that, you can become real humble because you have all these aspirations of your PR buck, your buck of a lifetime, or, that tom that's double bearded, or that bass that is 8, 9, 10, 12 pounds. Well, public land, public waters can give you a real reality check real quick. And sometimes, we don't know that until you have to experience it. But for the most part, you learn to do the work that's required for you to be successful. And a lot of times it's preparation. And some of the videos that I've talked about covers how important preparation is to being successful in different hunts, different situations, on the water. All these things are truly, truly important, but preparation is truly a key. Sometimes, you have to realize that the fish aren't biting. The fish just aren't biting. And that's the same thing with hunting. You can prepare for weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. You all know this, but you can prepare, you can prep, you can do all these things, and you get in position and still don't see a single deer. Well, I'm here to tell you, it happened to me. I mean, a reality check came real quick. So don't be fooled. Don't be misled. Real hunters have experienced these things. Real fishermen have experienced these things. True. You guys know this. Y'all know this to be true. But it is those experiences that teaches us something. And I believe this. In between those hunts, those harvests, in between those that PR bass, when the deer, there's no deer, there's no fish. Those moments in between those times are the most valuable in my opinion, because it allows you to become focused, relax. It allows you to really think about things that you really haven't thought about before, give you a different perspective on certain situations. So it is those times between those harvests, it's those times between that PR bass that really is more valuable to me than any time, because it gives you that time you need to really refocus. It gives you that time to breathe. It gives you that time to kind of reconnect to what really matters. All right. One thing I love about the outdoors is not only the experiences, but the reward from the time, the patience, and the endurance that one must go through in order to be successful in the woods. When the stars are aligned and everything comes into play, it's the reward from the effort and the patience that makes it all worthwhile. And I have several videos where those things happen just like that. That patience paid off. That effort paid off. Just being consistent pays off. And what don't see, and which I'm a victim of this, that there are a lot of hunts that you don't see, that I haven't harvested anything. But I stay consistent and try to be disciplined in the craft, and as a result, you'll find success. One thing we'll talk about a lot on this podcast is some public land, MA land hunting. Those are lands that are reserved to the public. The wildlife management areas, they are dedicated to allowing you and I access to hunt those lands during the specified hunting periods. But the thing about it is always the grind. If you ever hunted public land, you have to get there at a certain time to beat all the other trucks at the gate. Because once you 1 or 2, 3 or 4 trucks behind, then your spot that you may have scouted, the spot that you thought you wanted to get to, that you saw and said, yo, that's the spot I want to get to. Look, buddy, let me tell you, if you that 4th truck that's parked at that gate, chances are you're not gonna get that spot. So you might as well move on to the next gate and start that grind all over again. So this is the thing about public land and what it teaches you if you haven't experienced it. And for you new hunters or those that are interested in being part of the hunting community, and if you just say, hey, I want to go hunting, but I don't know where to go. Well, I'm here to tell you, I can show you, I can teach you, and talk you through that experience. But one thing that you have to understand, you have to know when public hunting is, you have to scout. You just can't walk out there and just say, hey, I'm going to shoot this deer. This deer going to walk across my path. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to find those trails. You have to find those scrapes. You have to find those rubs. You have to find those beds. You have to look for food sources. You have to look for the perfect habitat that you can anticipate deer will most likely be. You have to look at the forest floor, look at the canopy, or if there's a green field, how can you identify different types of grass or different type of food that's out there that that will be attractive for deer. Then you have to be adaptive. Because again, it's public. There's nothing that you can go and set up and create the comforts for yourself and so that, you can enjoy the hunt. If that's what you're looking for, public land hunting may not be for you because one thing you have to be able to adapt and when it comes to public land is adaptability. Adaptability is if you have a climber and you can't identify a proper tree that gives you the optimal wind positioning to where the wind is in your face, then you may have to hunt from the ground. Or if you hunting from the ground, you may have to find some brush or find some cover and be able to use that as camouflage to conceal you. So, or if you're a person that moves a lot, that may be your best bet because deer is very attentive when it comes to movement in the woods. So you have to be able to adapt when things are just not picture perfect the way you imagine them or the way you wanted them to be. You have to move smarter. You have to be very smart and strategic in your movement. For example, if you are late in identifying a path or a trail, deer trail is what we call them. If you cross that, then you may have, put yourself at a disadvantage of seeing a deer because of the scent that you may have carried or walked through that trail with. You really have to learn deer behavior, how they travel in the morning, how they travel in the evening, what food source are they going to, where are they going to bed, how they travel when transitioning from different food sources, or what's the movement like during and after the rut. You have to put in the time to understand that deer behavior. There's no shortcut, people. I must tell you, the times I've gone, it's a challenge, I must admit to it. And hats off to all the hunters, all the members of the community that public land hunting. Hat to you guys. You earn every opportunity too. It's not given to you, it's earned. And I believe in, earning your keep. As long as you prep, put yourself in the best situation, learn to adapt, move smarter, you should earn every opportunity you get. And honestly, some of the best outdoorsmen I know are public land hunters because of those things I just mentioned earlier. Same thing with fishing. There's no different, though. This channel is dedicated to both hunting and fishing, but those same principles pretty much apply. Some of the best fishing memories come from, with me, with bank fishing, small ponds, rivers, and random spots, people overlook that you pass by every day. We pass by a bridge, there's a creek or river or something that you probably never even thought of, but those are some of the best fishing opportunities, fishing holes that you could probably have. But I want to make sure we all understand this. And if you're viewing this podcast or been familiar with my channel, you know this to be true. The outdoors, y'all, it's not perfect. I know that, you know that. And the sooner the newer members of the hunting community understands that, they'll fast track them to being more successful outdoorsmen. It's the experience. So the experience teaches you and shows you how to be successful. So hopefully that helps some of you all, that this conversation we just had about that. Hope that was very helpful. So, but moving forward, I want to kind of cover for the viewers what they're going to come to expect from this channel on a consistent basis. Don't want to be repetitive, but I want to make sure that we understand the expectations on this channel will be deer hunting strategies. But see, I want to share some of my strategies with you, and I want you to share some of your strategies with me so that we can engage everyone and kind of inform the community on some things they may not have known. Bow hunting tips, you guys probably recognize or have seen some of my videos. I do bow hunt. I like bow hunting. That's my preferred method of hunting. But as I've gotten older, I have some challenges with that. If you all have not, you haven't been made aware, but I want to share some things with you over this past 2 months now, starting back at the end of February of 2026. I had my first surgery was my carpal tunnel in this hand. And this hand was, one of those ailments. I can't really pinpoint where it started, but it got to a point to where if I didn't do anything to it, I probably lose some of the function in my hand. So I had to really go and do that. The second, in March of 2026, at the end of March of 2026, I had total shoulder replacement. I have new parts in here. They took out some old parts, put some new parts in. I have about I don't know, 12-inch, 8-inch scar here. So those are some of my challenges. And later on, one of the episodes, we're going to talk about the bow hunting conversation between bow hunting and crossbow hunting. That's something I want to look forward to as well. But moving forward, fishing techniques, some observations you guys observed in the wild. Gear talk. There's some gear talk we're going to talk about. Some outdoor stories. I'm really looking forward to the outdoor stories that we can share with one another. And just conversations about life, how the outdoors has impacted your everyday life. So those are some of the episodes we're going to cover. Some is going to be educational, some going to be storytelling, and this just conversations about some of the things that we learn outdoors. And I think that's going to make for a very interesting conversation. Also plan on bringing to the show or bring to the podcast some hunters, some that I've hunted with, some of my hunting buddies, some guys I fish with, some fishermen, some outdoor creators, game wars. I had one episode on one of my videos where I had a conversation or interview with a game ward, and just everyday outdoorsmen with great stories and knowledge they want to share. So hopefully those that are watching, and if you're interested and want to come on the show and be a part of the podcast, I welcome you. I want you to be a part of it, because the more perspectives that we have, the more we can engage the larger community. And like I said earlier, I want to not only share what I've experienced and those that come on the show have experienced, but I want you guys, I want to hear from you and share your things that you've done, your videos. So if you got some videos you want to share, I want to make sure you guys share them with me. Okay. So with that, it's going to be a great opportunity. So here we go. I think everybody has a story. I really do. And this podcast to really showcase that. I want some of those stories to be about that first deer, that first PR bass or that first PR crappie or what fish that you felt that was your PR, or your very first fish, whether that's a brim, trout. It doesn't matter what, if you fish for the first time, what was your first fish? That's what I want to know. So, or what was that one trip that you all had that you would never forget? You've seen some of the videos that I've had on those deep sea fishing trips or just fishing trips in general. And they were some of the most memorable experiences that I've had. I want to see if you had some of those same experiences. One thing I realized over the years is that some of the best moments I've had nothing to do with the success of getting a big buck or PR bass. Sometimes the best moments that I've had has been in those quiet mornings. I mentioned that earlier, but I want to swing back around to that because I think it is those times that I can remember that it got me through a lot of tough times in life. And I really appreciate the times that I've had in those mornings. The preparation, man, taking that tracker, disking that field, putting out that seed, trimming those limbs, cutting in shooting lanes or whatnot. Those things are key. The conversations that you may have had with someone that you hunted with, the scenery. Oh my God, the scenery. I can remember some of the most picturesque days in the early mornings in the woods are just stunning because that late October, early November days when those leaves are turning, that dew is falling, that fog is lingering, and the sun is peeking through the trees and coming over the hill. That is some of the most beautiful scenery that I have experienced that I experienced hunting. I've only experienced those through hunting. Just being present, that being able to see, feel, and hear the woods waking up, guys. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Come on, let's be real. That's nothing like that. That's nothing like it, right? Right. So sometimes in today's where everybody is rushing, there's no time to kind of just slow down and just take a pause. Everybody is stressed. Work stressing them out. Home stressing them out. Just all sorts of things in life are stressing people out these days. I mean, I mean, they are really wired. And everybody is constantly connected to some platform, some social media outlet, something that does not allow them to be connected to nature. But when you're sitting in the woods and standing by yourself or standing along the bank in the waters, you know this to be true. Things tend to do what? Slow down. But when you think people need to do more than they need to, I think from my perspective, I think they need that connectedness to the outdoors more. They need to put their feet in the water. They need to see and feel and smell the dew in the morning. I think that'll slow them down, I think. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about fishing and hunting. It's about reconnecting to something real. I don't want to get in that conversation about AI and all the other different stuff, but you can see and feel a tree. You can see and feel a deer. You can see and feel a fish. You can feel the water against your face. You can feel that tug on your line. You can feel the pull of that bowstring. You can smell the gunpowder of that shot. Those things are real, folks, because you're present in it when you're in outdoors. And I think it is those things that connects people to the outdoors. So with that, I'm a close like this. You know, again, hunting and fishing is more than just a hobby. It's a way of life. And with that, folks, I truly appreciate everybody listening to episode 1 of We Hunt 2, We Fish 2. And if you enjoyed this podcast, share this with somebody who loves the outdoors just like you. And please follow the YouTube channel for hunting and fishing. And when you do, drop me a comment and let me know what you think. And if you are a woods person or if you a waters person, let me know. I want to hear from you. And remember what Mama's here. Get out the house. Go outside. Till next time. Hunt. Fish. Live outside. We hunt too. We fish too.